we have Rand Paul with us. Rand Paul, of course, is a man who apparently does not want to make America great again. Because that's
hasn't
Donald
said
Trump.
He's going to make
Donald
America
Trump
great
is
again.
saying that he'll make America great again. I have not heard that from.
You know what else we haven't heard from Senator Paul?
What?
That he's going to do some very special things for our veterans.
Yes,
Very
I heard
special.
Donald Trump say that yesterday.
Right.
He's going to do
I
some
heard
very special things,
And I believe him.
Let's get him on the phone here now. Rand Paul, how would you answer these charges, sir?
Good morning, Glenn. I think the first thing I'd say is that, if you want to know how to make America great again, you have to know what made America great in the first place. And what made America great in the first place was that we had a very small, constrained government, which meant we left a lot of freedom for interaction, exchange, and trade, and we kept government out of the way, or at least we did for quite a while in our history. But we've had a creeping, growing cancer of government for the last 40 or 50 years. And I want to get that out of the way so we actually can thrive again.
Notice he didn't say anything about the very special things.
All right. He's not going to do anything special.
Will you do something special for our veterans? Because Donald Trump will.
I think that I would get beyond platitudes. And I think what we do is say, yes, we do have an obligation and a debt of gratitude to our veterans, and it is a priority and ought to be a priority. But the way you make it a priority, though, is by saying what parts of government you'll eliminate in order to have enough money left to help our veterans.
What can
the other thing you have to understand, though, is that our VA hospitals are a single-payer system, and inevitably they end up rationing care by making you wait. And so what we need to do is minimize how often veterans have to go to the government health care system and let them opt out as much as possible.
Rand, what can we expect from tonight with you? And last time, and I did not feel this way at all. I thought you were the only one that was out there smoking it and actually saying the truth and speaking truth directly to power, if you will. Are you going to back off of Chris Christie or Donald Trump today?
Well, you know me, Glenn. I'm not a timid soul. I think you got to stand up for what you believe in. And I also think nothing's ever given to you. Nothing's ever been given to me in life. Everything I've ever gotten, I felt like I fought for. I fought my way through academia, through medical school, through all of that. And I think you have to fight for what you believe in. No one's going to just say, here on a silver platter, here, why don't you be the president? I think you have to fight for what you believe in. And also you have to make sure that everybody knows the truth about people. And I think there's nothing conservative about Donald Trump, and I plan on making sure 20 million people who watch tonight understand that he is a fake conservative and that he's been for big government most of his life and really continues to be big for big government, but he's cloaking it in something to try to disguise it.
Hold it just a second. You're saying, and I agree with this, that you fought for everything in your entire life. Are you saying that Donald Trump didn't put up a fight to take those houses away from people so he could build buildings? He had to fight for that private property too. He had to go to court over it. He had to fight.
Well, he's been part of the fight. He's just been on the wrong side of the fight most of his adult life. And that's really, the issue of private property is a big one, because when you think of capitalism, you think of the greatness of our country, the building blocks are our capital, and capital comes typically from having security of title to your property and then being able to borrow against it. And that's what created capitalism, is that we have such great security of title. But when the government can come to a property owner and say, Donald Trump wants your house, and we're going to take it for a parking lot, that's destructive to capitalism, destructive to what made us great. So, if he really wants America to be great again, he's got to quit doing what he's been doing most of his life, which is supporting a big government that'll come and take your property.
I will tell you this, and want to say this in front of your face. One of the things I really like about Rand Paul and what he has done is, I think in some ways we have come to the same conclusion that it is the people and our principles that made this country great. And we have just been dividing ourselves over and over and over again. And he is the first candidate that I have seen before he was a candidate that was asking, how can I reach out to other communities? How can I, asking communities, black communities, you need to be a part of this conversation. Well, everyone else was still separating themselves. Rand has been actively engaged in trying to have a different kind of conversation. I want to ask you, Senator, are we a nation anymore where we can have those conversations without dividing ourselves over and over again? There's too many people on all sides of the aisle that just want to keep us divided.
I think if we don't reach out and if we don't become a party that looks more like the rest of America, I'll often say with tattoos, without tattoos, with earrings, with ponytails, without, we've got to be a party that looks like America. And if we don't, if we become the party that says, all Hispanics are rapists and drug dealers, all of a sudden, guess what? No Hispanics are going to consider Republicans as a party they want to vote for. But it's the same way with African-American vote, you name it. We have a lot to offer, and the Democrats have really done a crummy job with our cities and with unemployment. Unemployment with black males in Baltimore between the age of 20 and 25 is 37%. That's greater than the Great Depression. And people are open for other ideas now. If you'll show up, and if you'll tell them, there are ways that we could rejuvenate our cities. There are ways we could make them thriving again. But it isn't really by dividing us and calling people names. It's got to be about solutions. And, I've been going to those places. I've been to the south side of Chicago about a month ago, and there's very much an openness to wanting to hear what would Republicans do to help our community and to help our neighborhood be better.
Do you think the Republican brand itself can survive much longer, Rand, if we don't?
It's almost done for. And in fact, I've suggested we should rebrand completely and start saying we're the new GOP. And the faces of the new GOP would be young and black and brown and rich and poor, working class. And really, we have such a great message. Everything we are about would create prosperity for those who don't have it.
So tonight, what is your goal?
My goal is mainly to present my message, make sure that people know that there is a candidate that is for smaller government. There is a candidate who stands for the Constitution, and that the Constitution restrains the government, not the people. But also that, freedom creates prosperity, and that we're the richest nation ever in the history of mankind. We're also the most humanitarian nation. We gave away privately nearly $400 billion in 2014. And that doesn't come from any old economic system. It comes from freedom and capitalism and voluntary interaction. And we are a great country. But like I say, we got to figure out and understand why we're a great country so we don't lose it.
We started the Nazarene Fund 2 weeks ago, and I told you about that. We were just in Washington together, and I told you, and at the time I think I said we were just over $5 million. We're now at $7 million. That is not from giant corporations. That's coming literally in 10, 20, 30. The average donation is $100. These are just people that are just trying to do the right thing. We're seeing a repeat of the ship, the St. Louis, that brought Jews over. And Goebbels had a campaign where he was saying, by the way, those are all thieves, they're all murderers, they're all people that you don't want. And they sat off the coast of Florida for a while. And then they went back, and they were killed, many of them in the gas chambers. We're seeing this now with this sea of people that you don't have any idea who they are going into Europe. There's a difference between that and the organized and systematic looking at who is really, truly under attack, who is really, truly somebody that we can trust. It isn't coming in to thwart us, but is literally in fear for their lives. How do we navigate these waters, Rand?
Well, your goal of saving Christians and rescuing Christians from the Middle East, the Project Nazarene, is a great one, and we've been trying to support it as best we can through all of our social media as well. I think what it really points out, and this is an important point, we have problems, and everybody will see a problem around the world or domestically, and their immediate response is, what can government do to fix this problem? Instead of saying, what can I do to fix this problem? And in some ways, I sense that you've sort of given up on the political process to fix problems, but in some ways that's good. When I talk to people about education, when I'm in Silicon Valley, they say, you know what, we've given up on government. We're trying to come up with innovative ways to spread education outside and beyond government. I think that's exactly what we have to do. We have to have some government, but some government can't fix most of our problems. It's like I tell people the number one factor associated with poverty in our country is having kids before you're married. but I can't legislate that. I can't fix that problem. And so there are so many problems that are outside and beyond the purview of government. And maybe when we finally get to the point that we say, you know what, government isn't going to fix every problem. Let's step forward and do it ourselves. So I applaud you for the Project Nazarene. I hope it's successful, and I hope we can in some small way help you to raise money as well for it.
Well, I thank you very much for your support, and you have been very vocal in your support, and I appreciate that. But I've gotten to the point, and I think it is very good, that we have to realize we have to stop asking for permission to do the right thing. What are we doing? We expect somebody else to do the job or the government to do it, and if they don't do it, well, then we don't think we can. And, gee, I don't know, can I get permission? To what? To do the right thing? Of course you can do the right thing. And I've been inspired by those. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think the thing to realize, and people need to realize, is that government's not very good at doing anything. And so we should keep at a minimum what government does. In fact, this is sort of the argument, the efficiency argument for minimal government. Milton Friedman spoke about it. He said, that nobody spends somebody else's money as wisely as they spend their own. And as a consequence, government just inherently is inefficient and doesn't do anything well. So we should keep it at a minimum, the things that the people can't do themselves. And that's why national defense was given to the federal government, and very few other things should the federal government be involved with, because they frankly just don't do a very good job at coming to solutions or fixing problems.
Last question is on Louis Gohmert just sent over to Mitch McConnell something that said you've got to treat this Iran deal as a treaty. And you have to vote for cloture, and he believes you can stop this. What's going to happen with this Iran deal?
Well, there was one way we could have put forward, and it still would have been a protest, and I've been suggesting this. We vote to go into executive session. We put it forward as a treaty because we're in charge. The Senate is run by senators.
Correct.
The president can't tell us what to do. We put it forward as a treaty, and we vote it down. Now, would the agreement still go on? Probably, because then you're at an impasse where the president says, hey, it's an agreement, and the president has the ability to do agreements. The Senate says no, and there'll be a conflict, but there won't be an immediate resolution stopping him. The next president can stop him, and the next president can undo things. But I think really one of the things that is pressing even beyond the agreement this fall, which I think is incredibly important, is we have the power of the purse. We should be putting forward bills, all of the different spending bills, one after another, and saying that, look, spending requires 60 votes. It doesn't require 60 votes to undo or defund Planned Parenthood. It should require 60 votes in the affirmative to fund it. And frankly, there aren't 60 votes to fund it. So if we turn the tables and we say all spending requires 60 votes, guess
Mitch
what?
McConnell
He would actually be in charge again.
Your senior senator, Mitch McConnell. I mean, how do we get him to do that?
Well, I will do everything in my power to put forward the spending bills. I don't have control of the floor to be able to do that, but I won't vote for any funding that is lumped together in a continuing resolution that continues spending and borrowing money the way we've been doing it, and I won't vote for any money for Planned Parenthood. But there is a way, if we had the guts, that we would put forward 13, 15, 18 spending bills and let the Democrats vote against every one of them, but one after another they would be presented forward, and if nothing passes, we would look to the Democrats and say, you are shutting down government now because you can't get your way, but it is the authority and the duty and the obligation of Congress to actually put instructions on how the money is spent. I would defund all of the regulations that the president's been putting forward. Okay. You would still have instructions on defunding and not applying parts or all of Obamacare, but it would have to be affirmatively put forward, and that's why people elected us to represent, to be in charge of the House and the Senate. But if we don't do it, I think they're going to quickly sour on us, and that's part of the phenomenon right now with people looking to people outside of Washington, is because, frankly, people in Washington aren't doing their job.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you very much. And I just want to make note, for those who are listening, you never heard him say that he would do something special very, very soon.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks a lot, Rand Paul. RandPaul.com, RandPaul.com.